Good morning, ladies and gentlemen in the media. Welcome to our post-cabinet brief for Friday, July 7th, 2017. This morning, we have with us the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Noel Holder, the Director General of the CDC, Colonel Chabalal Ramsarup, and the Minister of State, Honorable Joseph Harmon. The cabinet brief will be done by the Minister of State, Mr. Harmon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Archer. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, a very good morning to you. Thank you, sir. The cabinet brief today will be done in three parts. The presentation will be done by myself, after which the Minister of Agriculture and the Director General of the Civil Defense Commission will prepare and present an update on the situation with respect to flooding and government's response with respect to, in particular, flooding in the Coke Savannah in Region 6. At its last cabinet meeting on Tuesday, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture briefed Cabinet on flooding in parts of Guyana, particularly in Regions 2, 5, 6, and 9. It was reported that flooding had occurred in several parts of the country, and in particular parts of the coastal region. The Minister of Agriculture and the Director General of the Civil Defense Commission will provide updates on this situation. On a paper presented by the Minister of Finance, Cabinet discussed the importance of expanding and diversifying the national economy and the importance of manufacturing and service industries to this process. It was thereupon agreed that government's attention to this sector needed to be restructured and focused. Cabinet therefore appointed an interministerial team comprising the Minister of Finance, Business, Natural Resources, and Public Infrastructure to engage the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association in an effort to stimulate and enhance the performance of the sector. It is intended that the engagements will be held thrice annually with established performance indicators to measure its progress and utility. The three engagements would be in the last week of July, October, and March, so that information can be fed into the national budget cycle to inform the mid-period assessment, the annual budget, and early implementation. It is also intended that the engagement will be open and candid, and that each meeting will issue a joint statement of matters discussed, agreements reached, and a reaffirmation of commitment to ongoing engagements. Cabinet envisaged that these engagements would result in improved performance of the manufacturing services sector and will resonate in a more diversified economy in the medium and long term. These engagements are additional to government's engagement with the private sector. The Honorable Minister of Finance presented the Cabinet three external loan agreements between the Government of Guyana and international creditors as follows. For the sum of $11,700,000 United States dollars to improve the quality and effectiveness of the technical vocational education and training system from the Caribbean Development Bank. For the sum of $4,500,000, special drawing rights to improve the safety and efficiency of public payment systems from the International Development Association, World Bank. And thirdly, for the sum of $9,900,000 special drawing rights to improve teaching practices and student achievement in mathematics at the primary level, and to improve the teaching capacity at the University of Guyana Facility of Health Sciences, also from the World Bank. Cabinet noted the agreements and approved their submissions to the National Assembly in accordance with Section 3.6 of the External Loans Act, Chapter 7408 of the Laws of Guyana. The annual report of the Protected Areas Trust for 2016 was presented to the Cabinet. The report was considered and approved, and approval was granted for it to be laid in the National Assembly as required by the Protected Areas Act 2011, Section 110(2). Cabinet granted its approval for Guyana to honor its obligations as a member of the Caribbean Development Bank to the replenishment of the 9th cycle, this is called the SDF 9, of the bank's Special Development Fund. Guyana is required to contribute the sum of $6,170,000 United States dollars to the SDF 9 over a 5-year period to maintain its 2.77% share in the bank. Payment of its contribution to the fund will enable Guyana to access loan and grant resources to aid in the implementation of developmental projects. Cabinet approved changes to the Board of Directors of the Sugar Industry Labor Welfare Fund Committee. The new members of the board appointed were Mr. Lincoln Lewis, Mr. James Suku, and Mr. Dorchan Nagasar. Mr. Lewis took the place of Mr. Carville Duncan. Mr. James Suku replaced Mr. Jairam Pitam, and Mr. Dorchan Nagasar succeeded Mr. Kenneth Joseph, now deceased, as the FITUG representative. Cabinet granted approval for the Guyana Extractive Industries Transparency International Initiative to participate in meetings with the International Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative officials in Paramaribo, Suriname from July 5th to the 7th, 2017. Guyana's participation was intended to build the capacity to develop a national work plan and to interact with representatives of the International EITI Secretariat, World Bank representatives, and the Suriname Multi-Stakeholder Group in pursuit of international EITI membership. The Guyana EITI intends to submit its candidature application to the International EITI Board in time for it to be placed on the agenda of its next conference to be held in October 2017. Dr. Rampadat Jatipat, Rudy Jatipat as he's popularly known, National Coordinator of the Guyana EITI, attended that meeting. Guyana will participate in a hemispheric workshop for cybercrime prosecutors and investigators to be hosted by the Organization of American States in Miami, United States of America, from August 22nd to the 23rd, 2017. The workshop is intended to provide participants with an advanced understanding of the operations of the Internet and ways to preserve and utilize a wide range of digital evidence that might be encountered in computer-related offenses. Assistant Superintendent Stephen Telford of the Guyana Police Force will attend the workshop. Guyana will attend the 277th sitting of the Caribbean Development Bank Board of Directors, as well as a meeting of its Oversight and Assurance Committee to be held in Bridgetown, Barbados from July 18th to the 20th, 2017. Mrs. Sharon Isaacs, Director for Guyana on the CDB's Board of Directors, and Mrs. Tracy Blair of the Ministry of Finance will attend the meetings. Approval was granted for the attendance at the 10th meeting of the Caribbean Health Directors and the 5th meeting of the CARICOM Forum of Plant Health Directors that will be convened in Punta Cana, the Dominican Republic, from July 11th to the 14th, 2017. The forum serves as a technical advisory group to the Caribbean Agriculture, Health, and Food Safety Agency that works to protect the Caribbean from the spread of pests that could act as a barrier to trade. Participants are expected to discuss and share information related to plant protection and capacity building for pest diagnosis and identification. Mr. Brian Sears, Chief Plant Protection Officer of the National Agricultural Research and Extension Institute, NARI, will attend the meeting. Cabinet approved the participation in a high-level training program on the development of spatial data infrastructure, SDI, at the National Institute of Geography and Statistics of Mexico from July 17th to the 21st, 2017. It is expected that the skills acquired from this program will assist the government to expand the use of geographic information for decision-making within the natural resources sector. Mr. Harmon Prasad, GIS Manager of the Natural Resources Geospatial Information Management Unit, and Mrs. Marceline Sears, Systems Engineer at the National Data Management Authority, will participate in the training program. Guyana's participation in a startup workshop on the Universal Postal Union operational readiness for e-commerce in the Caribbean has been approved. The workshop, to be held in Barbados from July 10th to 14th, 2017, will address obstacles to online cross-border transactions for consumers and help designated operators to modernize their procedure to meet e-commerce requirements. Mrs. Karen Brown, Postmistress General, along with Mrs. Nicola James Erskine, Director of Financial Services, and Mrs. Talicia White, Public Relations and Marketing Officer, both of the Guyana Post Office Corporation, will attend the workshop. Cabinet noted the award of contracts as follows: for the extension and rehabilitation of the Regional Administration Building, Region Number 9, the contract in the sum of $17,149,000 awarded to AAV Ragobir General Construction. For the construction of a single-lane roundabout at Timeri, Region Number 4, for the sum of $74,035,000, contract awarded to Geico Construction and General Services. For the procurement of poles and timber products for the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Ministry of the Communities. Now, these poles, as you know, had to do with the provision of electricity to many communities. So I'll read them out as we go along. Lot number 1, Peters Hall, Region Number 4, contract in the sum of $4,500,000 awarded to Memrex Enterprises. Lot number 2, Z-Lot Phase 2 and 3, Region Number 3, A contract in the sum of $18,312,000 awarded to N. Hussein and Sons Enterprise. Lot number 3, Farm, Phase 1 and 2, East Bank Demerara, Region number 4, for the sum of $41,734,000. Contract award to N. Hussein and Sons Enterprise. Lot number 4, Covent Garden, East Bank Demerara, Region number 4, for the sum of $18,788,000. Contract awarded to N. Hussein and Sons Enterprise. Lot number 5, Hope New Scheme and Experiment, East Coast Demerara, Region number 4, the sum of $11,304,000. Contract award to Memorex Enterprises. Lot number 6, Diamond Industrial Area, East Bank Demerara, Region number 4, for the sum of $6,060,000. Contract award to Memorex Enterprises. Lot number 7, Underneming, Phase 3, Essequibo Coast, Region number 2, for the sum of $15,348,000. Contract award to N. Hussein and Sons Enterprise. Lot number 8, Lust and Rust, West Bank Demerara, Region number 3. The contract in the sum of $23,362,000 awarded to N. Hussein and Sons Enterprise. Lot number 9, Barnwell and Eccles Industrial Area, East Bank Demerara, Region number 4. A contract in the sum of $5,310,000 awarded to Memorex Enterprises. Lot number 10, Baltiok, West Bank Berbice, Region number 5, for the sum of $2,520,000. Contract awarded to Memorex Enterprises. Lot number 11, Kilchoy Chesney, East Berbice, Region number 6, for the sum of $20,064,000. Contract award to Memorex Enterprises. Lot number 12, Paradise and Enmore on the east coast of Demerara, Region number 4. Contract in the sum of $4,080,000. Award to Memorex Enterprises. Lot number 13, 5 Miles, Bartica, Region number 7. The contract in the sum of $8,625,000. Award to N. Hussein and Sons Enterprise. Lot number 13, 14, and 15 for the supply of cross arms and sleepers for the sum of $37,544,000. Contract award to Ramatar and Sons Contracting. A total sum of $386,741,000. For the procurement of agricultural equipment and office supplies for the Guyana Prison Service, Ministry of Public Security, for selected items, a contract in the sum of $4,874,000 awarded to CAT, Regal Stationery and Computer Center. For selected items, for the sum of $22,522,000, contract awarded to Netcom. For the procurement of vehicles for the Guyana Prison Service, the Police Complaint Authority, and the National Anti-Narcotic Agency, Ministry of Public Security, 1 30-seater bus, 1 pickup, 1 SUV, and 1 motor car, in the sum of $39,244,000 awarded to Massey Industries Guyana Limited. For the supply and installation of CCTV cameras and accessories for 24 tower sites, data center, the Ministry of Public Telecommunications, in the sum of $72,059,000, contract award to Massey Technologies. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, those were the matters which were discussed and decisions made at Cabinet at its last meeting on Tuesday. What I do is ask the two officers who are the Minister and the Director General of the Civil Defense Commission, who are sharing the press conference with me, to make statements or an update on the matters which they have responsibility for. Minister Holder first.
Morning, members of the media. I would like to bring you up to date on basically two situations that are weather related that has been of concern to the government in recent times, in very recent times. Some of you might know that the coastland is essentially below sea level. We have drainage and irrigation systems, and in Region 2, the Tapakuma Conservancy supplies irrigation water to the rice fields there. In Region 3, the Borosiri does the same. In Region 4, the East Demerara Water Conservancy. However, and of course, MMA has the MMA Abari Conservancy. In Region 6, however, that is not the situation. Traditionally, Region 6 gets its water from the Kanji. So pumping stations pump water from the Kanji into the Skeldon Estate, into Blackbush Polder, into Rosal and Albion to give them the irrigation water required. And the system is so designed that because of this high requirement of water from the Kanji, the Turani Canal was dug linking the Burbis to the Kanji to allow water from the bigger river, Burbis, to supplement water in the Kanji to ensure there's always enough water for rice and sugar along the Corentyne coast. However, over the last month or so, because of excessive water in the upper reaches of the Kanji, water in the Kanji has gotten so high that it has is overflowing its banks, particularly in the areas that are not declared drainage and irrigation areas. One such area is the Kukurit Savanna and the Manurabisi Savanna. I think the Manurabisi is now called, I see it on the map here, as the New Sukram cattle pasture. The result of this is farmers who have or cattle owners, who have their animals grazing in common on these pastures. The pastures are totally inundated. Normally, this area would drain into the Kanji, but now the Kanji is overflowing its banks and flooding them out. So the cattle population is to some extent in jeopardy. Farmers have been complaining that they've had thousands of animals lost and so on, which overflying the area by helicopter with the assistance of the Civil Defense Commission and the GDF, we have not seen that amount of carcasses. There were some carcasses. I think we saw about 20 or so, but it probably more than that. And in any event, cattle are pretty hardy creatures, and they will find whatever high ground they can. The vulnerable lots will be the calves, the young animals that will fall into the water. And the water is very deep. It's 2 or 3 feet high. So that is an area of concern because it's not a DNI area. It cannot be drained into the Kanji because the Kanji is now overflowing. So we've had to send a battery of engineers to look at the system and see what could be done. And what we have done is essentially to put a number of additional pumps to allow the Manurabisi area to drain through places like Blackbush Polder. This itself could be problematic because if too much water flows through into Blackbush, the rice production could be jeopardized. And that is why our engineers are on the ground, because the cattle farmers will be inclined to break the dams to get relief from the cattle pasture. And we have to make sure that doesn't occur. So if we can control the drainage through the cultivated area, then things could be handled better. And in that respect, the NDIA have installed pumps at Let's Beholden, this Adventure, at number 46, number 49, 2 pumps at number 52 Village. And we have a machine, 2 machines, cleaning the Fowler Canal to bring water down to number 66 Creek. We think if there's no excessive rainfall over the next 2 or 3 days, the water levels should come down. Now, farmers in the Blackbush Folder area have expressed concern, naturally, because if you drain through our lands, and therefore there's a possibility of putting our rice crop in jeopardy, there will be concerns. And so will the entire government, because after all, rice is one of the bigger earners of foreign exchange for this country. And that's why we have engineers on the ground monitoring the system. But as we told the farmers, because the irrigation canal that brings water from the Kanji to Blackbush is inundated, what you have in that canal now is basically least water from the savannas. And therefore, even if you want to, it's not water you can use for irrigation. So in any event, we have to flush that out of the system, which means you're draining the cattle pastures before you could have irrigation water. But you don't need irrigation water now because you have lots of rain. So that is what's going on there. We've also opened the doors of the Turani so that instead of water coming from the Burbis to the Kanji, water is going from the Kanji to the Burbis. So we're trying to relieve the situation on 2 fronts, coastal as well as riverine. So in a nutshell, that's where we are. The Livestock Authority is on the ground trying to see what mitigating factors they could bring in. Obviously, there's a shortage of fodder because it's all flooded. But the logistics of getting grass into that area, or molasses or rice bran, as you can see, poses tremendous problems because of the physical situation. The other problem that is problematic is the situation in the Rupununi. Now here it is in the Rupununi, you have bright sunshine, you have no rain, but the Ereng and the Takatu have been backing up. It's risen something like 25 feet. Now this is a problem because it is not a Guyana situation. What seems to be happening is the Amazon has backed up into the Rio Negro, which is backed up into the Rio Branco, which of course is backed up into the Ereng and the Takatu. The Takatu is our border on the south, and the Ereng is the border on the north, and they flow into the Rio Branco, and they flow down into Brazil to the others. And this is a problem, because what can you do about that? It's not a Guyanese problem, and it's a more difficult one to surmount, because while we could handle the situation to some extent on the coast, pumps, drainage, seawall, to any canal, what do you do in a situation in Rupununi? I think the Colonel will give you a big update on that from the civil defense side. I think they have been in contact with the Brazilian armed forces and the Brazilian government to see what could be done. But in a nutshell, those are the 2 areas of concern that are affecting the Ministry of Agriculture at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Minister. You've covered nearly everything. We had a problem in Region 2, and that problem is now licked. It's solved, actually. The river dam at Charity was overflowing, and it was overflowing because of the amount of water in the Pomeroon River, as well as the water that we were pumping out from the Conservancy. That exacerbated the problem. But that matter is now solved. I was told so yesterday by the Minister of Public Infrastructure. Apart from flooding in the Kukrit and Sukram Savannah, the Barakara area is also flooded, and there they have about 3,000 to 5,000 heads of cattle, and they're also in a situation that we would not like. We also have the Ministry of Agriculture through the Livestock Authority, who are also in that area today, looking at it and see what help can be given. I know in 2005, we tried to lick the situation in the Bari, Maikoni, and Mahika rivers. What we did was cut grass from along the coast, wherever it was available, transport it to those locations by raft. And wherever the cattle are on a little high ground, we took it to the cattle. Flying over, however, Kukrit is going to be a hard nut to crack. NDI is looking at that, What we did after the 2005 floods in the Myconia-Barre area, we built a lot of mounds so that whenever the place is flooded, the cattle will tend to gravitate towards the highland. I hope that we can do the same for Kukrit and Sukram savannas. As Minister of Agriculture said, when Blackbush polder was planned, we did not take into consideration the drainage of the Sukram and the Kukrit savanna that came after. But we now have to put some systems in place so we can have drainage for those areas as well. The entire coast, actually, water is off except for the Region 6 area. Region 7 and 8, the water has receded. There are some minor flooding in Region 10. However, in Region 9 is our biggest headache. And it's a situation where it's difficult to influence. There was a meeting yesterday between the Guyana and Brazilian counterparts. But what we discovered is that the water in the Rio Branco is rising because of heavy rainfall in North Brazil. There has been sunshine nearly for the entire week in Region 9. The water has fallen somewhat in the Letem area, but all the other sub-regions are flooded. We advise the farmers down there to reap all the crops that can be reaped, stock the cassava up, and a number of mills are in the area. We advise that they take the crops to the mills or the mills to the crops and ensure that we can utilize make as much farine and cassava bread as possible. I can assure you that there's no shortage of food in the area at this point in time. But if it persists, there might be a problem with food. We are hoping that the rain in North Brazil eases up. But according to the forecast, there'll be rain today, tomorrow, and Sunday. And that may probably give some rise to the water again in both the Takatu and Iring rivers. And it will flow straight across into the Essequibo and the other rivers in the area. But as I speak to you now, the report of this morning at 8 o'clock, there is still flooding in all the districts in the Region 9 area. We got a truck with some stuff going in tomorrow morning, and to also have some nutrients for the animals. Wherever they are located, they'll be given to them so that they can survive the flood waters. There are also some food stuff going in. We've already taken some cleaning hampers, which are being distributed. There are still 2 shelters that are open, and we have a total of 36 persons in those shelters. They are advised, even though the water has gone down in the Letem area, that they should not go back home until such time that we get it all clear that wherever they were living, it is safe for them to get back there. There has been some reported of waterborne diseases in some areas, but I'm happy to report that the Minister of Health did report that there are adequate medication for treatment. There's one little problem, and that is because the water has risen, the snakes come out from where they are. But we have not had any incident of snake bite as yet. But most of the people are being aware, and we are broadcasting from Radio Letem on a daily basis, telling people what to do, how to do it. So we're hoping that the situation will somewhat be controlled very shortly. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Minister of Agriculture and Director General, Civil Defense Commission. As you can see, Guyana being a low-lying coastal state, we are subject to the vagaries of the weather. And I think if many persons felt that climate change was a joke, you recognize now that the world's interconnected system is of such that something happens in one country and affects you in another. And I think this is maybe one of the reasons why you have so many people picketing on the streets where Mr. President Trump and President Putin is meeting to highlight the importance of climate change and the reason why as nations of this earth, we have to pay attention to issues that affect the climate and issues that affect the environment. And so far as we are concerned, we will do all that is within our power to ensure that our people are comfortable, that they are protected from the vagaries of weather, but that there are some things which are outside of our grasp, which will require international cooperation. And Colonel Ramsrup alluded to the fact that yesterday at the Takatu Bridge, there was a brief meeting there between the commander of the 1st Infantry Brigade in Brazil, General Dutorte, and Colonel Beaton from the Ghana Defense Force. They were basically, there was a function which recognizes the building of the Takatu Bridge and the annual, and it's an annual exercise. But at that meeting, an undertaking was given that the Brazilian authorities will look at the situation in Brazil, and within another 2 weeks, that what we will have a joint border, a committee that will look at all of these issues. So while it is something that we cannot do much about, we are taking whatever steps we can at the national level, and internationally, we are engaging our neighbors to ensure that we can bring relief to the citizens of this country. So those are the matters that came up at Cabinet and the subsequent brief on the weather. I will take a few questions today, not too many questions off of the Cabinet brief, because the importance of what Minister Holder has said and what Colonel Ramsrup has said cannot be lost upon us, because some of us, when we're on the coast, we're on dry ground, we have to pay attention to what is happening in the entire country. So those will be my remarks, and I'll take a few questions from you. Yes.
Mr. Agriculture Minister, has there been an assessment of the extent of loss in agricultural crop produce, livestock, when all of this is over, in terms of dollars, about how much money you think we stand to lose?
That is often a difficult thing to assess. We have been on top of the rice losses, which in our opinion has been minimal across the country. It's beyond the control. This one is worrying. It's a large number of animals. Unfortunately, because it's communal pasture land, no individual can easily say, I have cows in this location and you have cows in that location. And because the water is on the land now, it will be difficult to assess until the water goes down. Now, I said before, cows are hardy. The losses we think at this point in time will be largely young stock. Where the problem will really come from an animal husbandry standpoint is when immediately after you've gotten the water off. The ground will be very sticky. The cows, currently now they can move. When it gets sticky, then they could stick, and that could lead to mortality. And that is when our people, the livestock authority people, will be in the area trying to ensure that losses will be minimized at that stage. But at this point in time, when farmers are telling you, I've lost 1,000 head, they couldn't possibly know. And frankly speaking, on the flyover, you aren't seeing that many carcasses. The cattle have been moving to high ground. But the losses of young stock calves, that could be a worrying factor.
I would like to ask.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Mr. Ramsrup or the minister, when was the last time, when was the last time in recorded history that this country has recorded so much water in on the land in any, region 6, region 2?
I think I can say that what has happened in the Cookrit and Manrapisi savannas, or New Socrum as Colonel Ramsey calls it, there's no records of that in recorded history. They've had high waters in 1972, but it never was this peculiar situation where the Kanji is overflowing its banks. I mean, you've had water before which could have drained into the Kanji and pumped and so on, but this is a worrying situation.
Okay, well, we'll take the, yes, go ahead, sir.
In fact, since I've been to the Civil Defense Commission, there's no report from the Sukram Canal, from the Sukram Savannah or Cookman Savannah of flooding. However, in the Region 9 area, the 2011 floods were far higher than we're having now.
Yes, Minister.
Yes.
It is now public knowledge that Dr. Narain was transferred to the Ministry of Public Service. On Tuesday, the Working People's Alliance alleged that there is no such ministry as the Ministry of the Public Service. In fact, the party said that there is just a building. And so I just need some clarity on that. And secondly, I think last weekend when you met with the Berbice business community, you urged them to submit proposals for sugar. We know the government already made their decisions on the sugar industry. Is this an indication of, maybe the government is considering something else?
No, it is not. What we're saying is that based on the government's plan for the industry, that there are business opportunities that present themselves, and that the businessmen who wanted an opportunity, what I said to them, yes, you have an opportunity, that there are business opportunities which present itself as a result of government's plan for the industry. It is not that we were going back again. That is very clear. Secondly, the president has made an announcement on this matter, and on that, I will rest my case. Whether somebody or some group feels that this is not the case, that there is no such ministry, well, the president has made the announcement, and there is such a ministry, that Dr. Rupert Ryan is on leave presently. When he reports for duty, he'll be going into a ministry. I can say that to you. Yes.
On that note, the Shauna goes for the distribution update.
Give the mic.
There's been some report about there might possibly be with sugar.
That's them.
Rationing on sugar. Now, with everything that is going on in the sugar industry and so forth, and with the government set to provide additional new jobs for others who are involved within the sugar industry presently. Now, there have been some reports of possibly there is sugar rationing going on where persons are limiting, how much sugar is being sold to persons within some parts of the country. I've heard a simple report just this morning. I was speaking with the minister earlier, Minister Holder, about the same topic, where an individual said they went to the shop to purchase 5 pounds of sugar and was told that they can only purchase 2 because of the situation with the sugar industry right now. What can you say about that?
Well, I don't know about that situation. I will not comment on that. What I can say is that there are times when persons who look at what is happening tend to want to make a profit on the misfortunes of people sometimes. And in this regard, let me address another statement which was made by a regional official in Region 6, which said that some of the pumps in Region 6 were not working, were not functioning, because the government has actually cut the budget for that authority, and therefore they didn't have money to buy fuel for the pumps to work. Well, clearly this is a serious bit of propaganda by that regional official from the People's Progressive Party, because I have from the Ministry of Finance the information with respect to all of the programs under that regional authority. And agency number 76, region number 6, East Berbice Quarantine, fuel and lubricants. The allocation is 309,773,000. It says under subhead 6231. To date, the region has spent 58,463,000. So there's an unspent balance of $251,309,000. You've spent 18.87% of the allocation. Under maintenance of drainage and irrigation, this is another head under which sums can be spent. The allocation is $257 million. To date, the region has spent $78,866,000. An unspent balance of $178 million. You have spent 30.69% of the allocation. So that's one head. Under the program 762, agriculture, this here again, monies can be spent for drainage and irrigation, for agriculture, and for pumping and so on. Fuel and lubricant 6231, an allocation of $270,533,000. To date, the region has spent $48,738,000. So there's an unspent balance of $221 million. For maintenance of drainage and irrigation, an allocation of $257 million. To date, they've spent $78,866,000. And there's an unspent balance of $178 million. Under program 763, Public Works, fuel and lubricants, an allocation of $5,500,000. The amount spent so far, $898,000. An unspent balance of $4,601,000. For the maintenance of drainage and irrigation, you have a total of $5.5 million. As I said, $898 spent, and therefore 16.3% of the allocation has been spent. So that when these regional officials seek to give the impression that it was a lack of resources provided by the central government that was causing this problem, the figures tell a different story. And this is something that we want the people of Region 6 to understand, that regional officials and leadership of the region must act in accordance with their responsibility as leaders in the region, and that their primary concern is not the political stance of their party, but service to the people of the region that they have been elected to lead. So I just wanted to make that very clear because this was a statement made, and we wanted to clarify that issue as well. Yes.
So just a quick follow-up from that and two more questions. Do we have any reports that some opposition-aligned NDCs in Berbice would have sabotaged some of the structures?
I cannot say that at the level of cabinet that we have that information, but I would basically rely on that information to come from the Ministry of Public Security, through the police and the various network of informants and information which comes from the level of the NDC all the way up to the Commissioner of Police, the Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defense Force, and the various other channels of information coming from that level. But I cannot say that right now that there is any credible information which has reached cabinet that confirms what you are saying.
Minister, does the government endorse the use of state ads as a weapon to silence or punish media houses? I'm referring, of course, to the decision by GCOM to pull its ads from Kaiser News starting this year, after we would have carried a number of stories on procurement breaches there. How can you, as a government, fix this?
Well, they remember the GCOM, they're what we call independent agencies. And what we can say is that it is not a situation which the government agrees that the pulling of ads should be used as a weapon against anyone. We believe that Guyana enjoys the status of a free press. We believe that the media should be allowed to do its work. But at the same time, we cannot direct an entity where to place its ads. But as a general principle, we do not believe that the use of advertisement should be used as a tool against anyone. We don't believe that. We believe that the media should be allowed to do its work, and we support a free media. But insofar as actually giving directions to any independent entity, I believe that we will stop short of giving any such statement. But as a general principle, it is not something that we agree with.
If I could just redirect you a little, Minister. I think the thought is that you would put the ad either in two places, whether you put it in all the media houses or you put it in the media houses which has widest reach. In this particular case, that was not done. It just two selected media houses. So in that particular case, I would like, we, Kaiser News, would like for you to comment on that.
Well, I can't, as I said to you, comment any further on the matter. As I said to you, government's position is that we do not believe that the use of advertisement should be used as a weapon or a tool against anyone. We believe in a free media. And that's as far as I can go. I would not go beyond to say to somebody who you should put your ads with. If in fact the requirement is for two, then you have several media houses, and you can be 2 out of 4 or 2 out of 5. But I'm not saying that to say that at the level of the state that we approve any entity using the placement of advertisement as a weapon against any newspaper.
Final question. Give somebody else a chance.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. She indicated before, so before then.
Yes. Where you got it from, Adam? Yes. Why is
That's
the microphone
again.
giving you such a hard time this morning?
On the topic of the flooding in Region 8, parts of Region 8 and 9, where persons are affected greatly, as you said, within the next three days, the rains might be continuing falling and flooding of these areas. Now, I want to know for sure, with farming being one of the main reasons persons in those parts are making their livelihood from farming cassava, farming whatever ground provision they can to get money. They don't have any other real means of earning money. Now, is the government prepared to, if the rains and the flooding should continue and keep affecting that area, is the government prepared to continue in its support to providing ration, medicine for these persons? And if so, can you tell me a figure as to how much the government is prepared to spend to provide such because you were saying Brazil,
That's a difficult one. That's a difficult. Let me explain what happens. That's a difficult one. Before you actually make a decision on what is to be done, you have to make an assessment. An assessment is done, and usually the assessment is done by an interagency force led by the Civil Defense Commission. And once that assessment is done, it will determine to what extent the state will allocate resources to that region. Now, once the assessment is done and there is a clear indication as to what needs to be done, so this is when we invite other stakeholders. We invite the public, we invite companies and persons like that to come to the aid of those residents who would have been affected by the flooding. Additionally, I can say to you that we are members of an agency called SEDEMA, which is the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Authority, or agency, and that through SEDEMA, through our membership also of the Caribbean Development Bank, I did report earlier in my statement about us being one of the governors on the bank, that we are seeking to access resources from these agencies to put to the use of our people. We are looking at accessing grants from the Caribbean Development Bank, and we're also looking at accessing loans. The question of flooding in Region 9, as Colonel Ramsoup said to you, that in 2011, there was a serious problem. We have the problem again now in 2017. The plan that is being worked on now, and we've gone a far way with it, is to ensure that in each of these administrative regions, in particular, regions 1, 7, 8, and 9, that there is a civil defense bond. What we referred to when we were dealing with region 7 and 8 as a forward logistic base. And therefore, what we will do is to pre-position items in those bonds, in those regions, and so that in the event of an emergency like this, the heavy stuff which has to be moved, you don't have that problem because they are already pre-positioned in the regions. It will just be the emergency supplies and smaller items which can actually be flown in. But insofar as heavy movement is concerned, the transportation on the ground, in very many cases, the roads are cut off. We are looking at pre-positioning things there. Additionally, you will also know that in the presentation, in my presentation in 2017 budget, under the Civil Defense Commission, we spoke about training persons as first responders in all of these areas. So what that meant was that there would have been a cadre of persons in these regions who can actually respond to situations as they occur. So you do not have to wait on some response from Georgetown, because in the regions, there would have been a response capability, there would have been initial resources that can deal with these situations as they occur. Climate change is here. Flooding will happen, droughts will happen, and therefore, as a nation, what we are doing, we are putting in place a system that will cater for these situations when they occur. We've already identified the land in Region 9 in Lethem for the building of such a bond. We've identified in several other areas buildings where that will take place. But Region 9, because of the times when you have heavy rainfall, is flood, and when there's no rain, it is drought. We felt that that was the first area that we will set up a civil defense forward logistics base with all of these resources there. I can say to you that designs have already been approved, and we're looking now at funding for it. So that is what I would wish to say to you this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the media. It was a pleasure having you here, and pleasure having my colleague, Minister Holder, and the Director General of the Civil Defense Commission to share this post-cabinet press briefing with me. Thank you very much.